A policeman, an archer, and a soldier are on an airplane losing altitude. The pilot yells to these passengers, "We're carrying too much weight. Drop whatever you've got." The policeman drops his pistol, the archer drops his bow and arrow, and the soldier drops a grenade out of the hatch door. The plane still crashes, and all three passengers wake up in different locations. In search for help, they each start making their way through the woods they are now lost in. The policeman stumbles upon a little girl crying over the body of an adult man. He asks the girl, "What happened here?" To which the little girl replies, "I was walking with my daddy and a gun fell out of the sky and hit his head." The archer comes across someone crying over a body as well, a young boy. The archer says, "Oh my gosh, what happened?" The boy tells the archer, "We were playing hide and seek and I found him with an arrow in his head." The soldier pushes through the brush and finds a young boy laughing hysterically, standing in front of a cabin with a giant hole in the wall. The soldier asks the little boy, "Whoa, what did I miss?" The little boy says between laughing fits, "You wouldn't believe the fart I just ripped." A television crew comes to the farm to make an interview with the shepherd about his daily routine. "Our viewers would like to know what a regular day here in the countryside looks like. Can you start right from the beginning?" asks the reporter. "Oh, yeah, sure," starts the shepherd. "So first, I wake up, but I really don't wanna, so I take a sip of my brandy to start off my day. Then I have to go out to release the sheep. I'm still quite sleepy, so I take 2 sips to make me go outside and 1 more to have energy to open the gate. Out in the field, I usually meet my pal and we drink 2 whole bottles of brandy together and then—" "Oh, I'm sorry," interrupts the reporter. "We cannot really air that. Children are watching and we don't want to make a bad impression. How about every time you drink, you say you read a book instead?" "Yeah, that makes sense," says the shepherd and starts over. "Well, the first thing in the morning I wake up and read a page of my book. Then I go outside and read 2 more pages plus 1 more while opening the gate for the sheep. While out in the field, I usually meet my buddy and we read 2 books together. Then we return home while reading page after page and lock the sheep in the barn. Finally, at the end of the day, we go to town where my friend has a library and we read till the morning." A man is out drinking with his friend and he gets quite drunk and vomits down the front of his shirt. He exclaims, "Oh no, my wife will divorce me for sure." His friend asks why. He says, "She's been on at me for my drinking, and she told me if I come home drunk once more, she will divorce me." His friend thinks for a moment and then says, "I have an idea. Put $20 in your breast pocket, and if she asks where the vomit came from, say, 'A random man vomited on you and was terribly sorry, so he gave you the $20 to pay for the dry cleaning.'" The man thought this was a brilliant idea and cleaned himself up a little before he headed home. When he got home, his wife was waiting for him, and as soon as he had fumbled his way into the house, she shouted, "That's it, you're drunk, I'm leaving." He said, "No, my dear, you misunderstand. Some man vomited on me." He pulls the $20 from his breast pocket and says, "He was terribly embarrassed, so he gave me this $20 to pay for the dry cleaning." She seemed mollified and then asked, "What is the other $20 for?" To which he replied, "Oh, that is from the man that shat in my pants." So there are these 2 rich old men who live next to each other. At the border of their land is a pool that conjoins the 2 luxurious estates. In this pool, each man has a pet dolphin. Every day, the 2 old men stand at the edge of the pool and argue about whose dolphin is the smartest. This has gone on for years. Then one day, the first neighbor says, "Let's settle this once and for all." So the 2 men begin to devise a test to determine which dolphin is the smartest. They spare no expense. There are obstacle courses, memory tests, decoding puzzles, hoops to jump through, the whole 9 yards. As the day of the test comes closer, the first neighbor starts to get nervous. He thinks to himself, "What if my dolphin loses? I would be humiliated." So he decides to drug his neighbor's dolphin. The day of the test arrives, and of course the first neighbor wins with flying colors. He gloats about his victory for months. But after a while, he begins to feel guilty. So he tells his neighbor, "Hey, neighbor, I have to come clean. I cheated on the dolphin test. I drugged your dolphin. We don't really know whose dolphin is the smartest." His neighbor looks at him and says, "You know, that really defeated the purpose." There are usually 100 hens on a farm and only one rooster. After all, the rooster is just meant for mating and useless apart from that. One day, the farmer decided that the current rooster is getting old and bought a new, younger rooster in. The old rooster, upon seeing the new, younger rooster, got angry. "What are you doing here? This is my turf," he said to the younger rooster. The younger rooster replied, "I know how the farmer thinks. You are old, and I'm here to help and eventually take your place. Why don't you just give up and go to the corner of the field and rest?" Visibly enraged now, wings flapping, the older rooster retorted that he'd sooner be turned into a stew than retire without a fight. "I challenge you to a race. 10 laps around the field. If I lose, I'll do as you say and stay away till the end of my life. However, if I win, you are to leave this field and never return." The younger rooster smirked and said, "You are just going to embarrass yourself in front of the ladies, old chicken. Fine, you are on. In fact, I'll give you a 20-yard start." So the race got underway, and the young rooster can be seen chasing the old rooster round the field on the first lap. On the second lap, bang! The farmer shot the young rooster dead. Darn it, why are all the new roosters I bought, including the 2 previously, only interested in chasing and mating with the old rooster? Oh, a little boy named Timothy goes to a birthday party with his father. When he arrives, the hostess asks him, "How are you, Timmy?" Timothy replies, "I'm good. I think you have the wrong word there." The host chuckles, wanting to correct his grammar. Whatever." Timothy shrugs. Later, he runs into his grammar teacher. "How has your homework been going?" his teacher asks. "It's gone well," Timothy replies. "That's the wrong conjugation," his teacher points out. Whatever," Timothy says again. After a while, he finds his dad talking to another parent and wanders up to them. "Hello, Tim. Have you done well in soccer?" The parent greets. "I've done good." Timothy nods. "Timothy," his father says sternly, "you know what word you should be using?" Whatever." Timothy laughs, walking off. His father sighs. "Sorry about that. Timothy's a little rebellious, but he means well." During the wedding rehearsal, the groom approached the pastor with an unusual offer. "Look, I'll give you $100 if you'll change the wedding vows. When you get to the part where I'm supposed to promise to love, honor, and obey, and be faithful to her forever, I'd appreciate it if you just leave that out." He passed the minister a $100 bill and walked away satisfied. On the day of the wedding, when it came time for the groom's vows, the pastor looked the young man in the eye and said, "Will you promise to kneel before her, obey her every command and wish, serve her breakfast in bed every morning of your life, and swear eternally before God and your lovely wife that you will not ever even look at another woman as long as you both shall live?" The groom gulped and looked around and said in a tiny voice, "Yes," then leaned toward the pastor and hissed, "I thought we had a deal." The pastor put a $100 bill into the groom's hand and whispered, "She made me a better offer." An airline introduced a special package for businessmen. Buy your ticket and get your wife's ticket free. After great success, the company sent letters to all the wives asking how the trip was. 72% of them gave the same reply. What trip? New SIM to surprise her husband. A woman buys a new SIM card, puts it in her phone, and decides to surprise her husband, who is seated on the couch in the living room. She goes to the kitchen and calls her husband with the new number. "Hello, darling." The husband responds in a low tone. "Let me call you back later. Honey, my wife is in the kitchen. Cool message by a wife. Dear mother-in-law, don't teach me how to handle my children. I'm living with one of yours, and he needs a lot of improvement." Throwing knives at wife's picture. A husband was throwing knives at his wife's picture. All the knives were missing the target. Suddenly, he received a call from her. "Hi, what are you doing?" His honest reply, "Missing you." Habit of talking in sleep. A lady said to a doctor, "My husband has a habit of talking in his sleep. What should I give him to cure it?" The doctor replied, "Give him an opportunity to speak when he is awake." Natural disasters. just happen. Nobody teaches volcanoes to erupt, tsunamis to devastate, hurricanes to swirl around, and no one teaches a man how to choose a wife. Natural disasters just happen. Your husband needs rest. Doctor, madam, your husband needs rest and peace, so here are some sleeping pills. Wife, Doc, when should I give them to him? Doctor, they are for you. A man sat on the edge of the bed, watching his wife admire herself in the mirror. Her birthday was just around the corner, so he asked gently, "What would you like this year, honey?" Without missing a beat, she said, "I wish I was 8 again." The next morning, he sprang into action. He made her a giant bowl of chocolate cereal, just like kids eat. Then he whisked her off to the wildest amusement park in town. Every ride, she rode it twice. The Loop of Doom, the Gut Twister, the Mega Scream, all of them. After 5 hours of whiplash and motion sickness, he treated her to McDonald's, a Happy Meal, a chocolate shake, the works. Still not done, he surprised her with movie tickets to the loudest superhero blockbuster in theaters. Popcorn, soda, M&Ms, everything a sugar-crazed 8-year-old could want. By the end of the day, she could barely walk. She flopped onto the bed like a jellyfish in heels. With a proud smile, he leaned in and said, "So, did you enjoy being 8 again?" She opened one eye, groaned, and muttered, "I meant my dress size, you goofball." A woman in a hot air balloon realized she was lost. She spotted a man in a boat below and lowered her altitude, then shouted to him, "Excuse me, can you help me? I promised a friend I would meet him an hour ago, but I don't know where I am." The man consulted his portable GPS and replied, "You're in a hot air balloon, approximately 30 feet above a ground elevation of 2346 feet above sea level. You are at 31 degrees, 14.97 minutes north latitude, and 100 degrees, 49.09 minutes west longitude." She rolled her eyes and said, "You must be a Republican." "Yes, I am," replied the man. "How did you know?" "Well," answered the balloonist, "everything you told me is technically correct, but I have no idea what to do with your information, and I'm still lost. Frankly, you've not been much help to me." The man smiled and responded, "You must be a Democrat." "I am," replied the balloonist. "How did you know?" "Well," said the man, "you don't know where you are or where you're going. You've risen to where you are due to a large quantity of hot air. You made a promise that you have no idea how to keep, and you expect me to solve your problem. You're in exactly the same position you were before we met, but somehow now it's my fault." A family had twin boys whose only resemblance to each other was their looks. If one felt it was too hot, the other thought it was too cold. If one said the TV was too loud, the other claimed the volume needed to be turned up. Opposite in every way, one was an eternal optimist, the other a doom and gloom pessimist. Just to see what would happen, on the twins' birthday, their father loaded the pessimist's room with every imaginable toy and game. The optimist's room he loaded with horse manure. That night, the father passed by the pessimist's room and found him sitting amid his new gifts, crying bitterly. "Why are you crying?" the father asked. "Because my friends will be jealous, and I'll have to read all these instructions before I can do anything with this stuff. I'll constantly need batteries, and my toys will eventually get broken," answered the pessimistic twin. Passing the optimist twin's room, the father found him dancing for joy in the pile of manure. "What are you so happy about?" he asked. To which his optimist twin replied, "There's got to be a pony in here somewhere." Two old friends were just about to tee off at the first hole of their local golf course when a guy carrying a golf bag called out to them, "Do you mind if I join you? My partner didn't show up." "Sure," they said, "you're welcome." So they started playing and enjoyed the game and the company of the newcomer. Partway around the course, one of the friends asked the newcomer, "What do you do for a living?" "I'm an assassin, a hitman," was the reply. "You're joking," was the response. "No, I'm not," he said, reaching into his golf bag and pulling out a beautiful Martini sniper's rifle with a large telescopic sight. "Here are my tools." "That's a beautiful telescopic sight," said the other friend. "Can I take a look? I think I might be able to see my house from here." So he picked up the rifle and looked through the sight in the direction of his house. "Yeah, I can see my house all right. This sight is fantastic. I can see right in the window. Wow! I can see my wife in the bedroom. Ha ha! I can see she's naked. Wait a minute. That's my neighbor in there with her. He's naked too. He turned to the hitman. How much do you charge for a hit? I'll do a flat rate for you, $1,000 every time I pull the trigger. Can you do 2 for me now? Sure. What do you want? First, shoot my wife. She's always been mouthy, so shoot her in the mouth. Then the neighbor, he's a friend of mine, so just shoot his dick off to teach him a lesson. The hitman took the rifle and took aim, standing perfectly still for a few minutes. Are you going to do it or not? Said the friend impatiently. Just be patient, said the hitman calmly. I think I can save you $1,000 here. For years, 4 guys have been going on the same annual fishing trip. A few days before their departure, John's wife puts her foot down. That's it, John, you're not going this year. His buddies are disappointed, but what can they do? 2 days later, the 3 arrive at the campsite, only to find John already there. His tent is set up, firewood stacked, dinner sizzling over the fire, and he's kicked back with a cold beer. John, how the heck did you get here? And how did you convince your wife to let you go? John takes a sip of his beer and grins. Well, last night, I was just sitting in my recliner when my wife came up behind me, covered my eyes, and said, "Guess who?" I pulled her hands away, and there she was in a sexy nightie. She took my hand, led me to the bedroom, candles everywhere, rose petals on the bed, looked like something straight out of a movie. Then I saw handcuffs and ropes laid out on the bed. She smiled and said, "Tie me up and do whatever you want." John takes another sip. So here I am. A handful of 7-year-old children were asked what they thought of beer. There were some interesting responses, but the last one is especially good. I think beer must be good. My dad says the more beer he drinks, the prettier my mom gets. Tim, 7 years old. Beer makes my dad sleepy, and we get to watch what we want on television when he is asleep, so beer's nice. Melanie, 7 years old. My mom and dad both like beer. My mom gets funny when she drinks it and takes her top off at parties, but Dad doesn't think this is very funny. Grady, 7 years old. My mom and Dad talk funny when they drink beer, and the more they drink, the more they give kisses to each other, which is a good thing. Toby, 7 years old. My dad gets funny on beer. He is funny. He also wets his pants sometimes, so he shouldn't have too much. Sarah, 7 years old. My dad loves beer. The more he drinks, the better he dances. One time, he danced right into the pool. Lily, 7 years old. I don't like beer very much. Every time Dad drinks it, he burns the sausages on the barbecue and they taste disgusting. Ethan, 7 years old. I give Dad's beer to the dog and he goes to sleep. Shirley, 7 years old, and the best response. My mom drinks beer and she says silly things and picks on my father. Whenever she drinks beer, she yells at Dad and tells him to go bury his bone down the street again, but that doesn't make any sense. Jack, 7 years. In a physics class, the teacher was busy explaining a complex lesson when her pencil slipped from her hand and fell to the floor. She bent down to pick it up, then straightened herself and continued teaching. Little Johnny, sitting in the back, raised his hand with a mischievous grin. "Teacher," he called out, "this time there's going to be a new boy in your house." The teacher, puzzled and slightly amused, asked, "And how would you know that, Johnny?" Johnny leaned forward with a sly smile and said, "Well, teacher, from the little tear in your pants, I could see his mustache." He performed at county fairs and would go from town to town in his old van. One day, while in the middle of nowhere, his car broke down miles away from the nearest town. He started walking to the town to see if he could get help with his car. Along the road came a farmer riding a buggy pulled by a horse. As he got close enough, the farmer said, "Hey there, where are you going?" "I'm going to the town. My car broke down, and I'm trying to get some help fixing it," says the ventriloquist. "I saw the car and figured its owner would be around here somewhere," says the farmer. "Get on. I'll take you to my home. As it's getting late and we're still miles away from the town, I'll take you there tomorrow." The ventriloquist gets on and they go on their way. As they ride, they start having a conversation. "I'm just a farmer. I live out here with my animals. My horse, pigs, chickens, and goat. What do you do?" asks the farmer. "I'm a veterinarian," says the ventriloquist. "I have a special gift. I can talk to animals, and that helps me understand what's wrong with them." The farmer is in disbelief. "There's no way you can talk to animals. Can you talk to my horse? What does he have to say about me?" The ventriloquist says. "Sure enough. Talk to me, horse. Let your owner hear what you have to say. What do you think about him?" The ventriloquist, using his ventriloquism, makes the horse talk. "He's a good owner. Nay, he feeds me and treats me well. Brr." The farmer is incredulous. He cannot believe what he just heard. They get to his house and immediately go and grab a pig. "What does this pig have to say?" asks the farmer. "My master is a good master. Oink! He makes sure my mud is always fresh. Oink!" The farmer is in shock. As he takes the pig away, he turns around and looks at the ventriloquist and says, "Feel free to make yourself at home and talk to the animals all you want, except for the goat. She's a liar. Don't believe a thing she says." An Irishman on a deserted island for over 10 years sees a speck on the horizon drifting his way. What emerged from the surf was a wet-suited, black-clad figure. After taking some of the scuba off, there stood a gorgeous blonde. The blonde strides up to the stunned Irishman and says to him, "Tell me, how long has it been since you've had a cigarette?" "10 years," replied the amazed Irishman. She unzipped a waterproofed pocket on the left sleeve of her wetsuit and pulled out a pack of cigarettes. He takes one, lights it, and takes a long drag. "Christ," says the man, "I'd forgotten how great a smoke can be." "And how long has it been since you've had a drop of whiskey?" asked the blonde. Gobsmacked, the castaway replied. 10 years. The blonde reaches over to her right sleeve, unzips a pocket, and hands him a flask. He has a long drink. "Magic, truly fantastic," says the Irishman. At this point, the gorgeous blonde started to slowly unzip the long front of her wetsuit right down the middle. Smiling, she looks at the trembling man and asks, "Now, how long has it been since you played around?" With tears in his eyes, the Irishman fell to his knees and sobbed, "Sweet Jesus, don't tell me you got golf clubs in there, too." I walked into the doctor's office, and the receptionist greeted me with a warm smile. "What seems to be the problem today?" she asked. "Shingles," I replied simply. She nodded, took down my name, address, and insurance information and told me to have a seat. About 15 minutes later, a nurse's aide came out and called my name. "What brings you in today?" she asked. "Shingles," I said again. She jotted it down, checked my height and weight, and took my entire medical history before showing me to an examination room. Another 30 minutes passed before a nurse walked in. "So, what seems to be the issue?" she asked. "Shingles," I repeated. She nodded and got to work. A blood test, a blood pressure check, an electrocardiogram, you name it, she did it. Then she handed me a gown and told me to undress and wait for the doctor. An hour later, the doctor finally entered. He looked at me sitting there in nothing but a paper gown and clipboard in hand and asked, "All right, what's the issue?" I gave him a patient smile and said, "Shingles." The doctor furrowed his brow. "Where are they?" he asked. With a grin, I replied, "Out on the truck. Where do you want me to unload them?" The only cow in a small town in Ireland stopped giving milk. Then the townfolk found they could buy a cow in Scotland quite cheaply, so they brought the cow over from Scotland. It was absolutely wonderful. It produced lots of milk every day, and everyone was happy. They bought a bull to mate with the cow to get more cows, so they'd never have to worry about their milk supply again. They put the bull in the pasture with the cow, but whenever the bull tried to mount the cow would move away. No matter what approach the bull tried, the cow would move away from the bull, and he was never able to do the deed. The people were very upset and decided to go to the vet, who was very wise, tell him what was happening, and ask his advice. "Whenever the bull tries to mount our cow, she moves away. If he approaches from the back, she moves forward. When he approaches her from the front, she backs off. If he attempts it from the one side, she walks away to the other side." The vet rubbed his chin thoughtfully and pondered this before asking, "Did you, by chance, buy this cow in Scotland?" The people were dumbfounded, since no one had ever mentioned that they had brought the cow over from Scotland. "You are truly a wise vet," they said. "How did you know we got the cow from Scotland?" The vet replied with a distant look in his eye, "My wife is from Scotland." A priest was being honored at his retirement dinner after 25 years in the parish. A leading local politician and member of the congregation was chosen to make the presentation and give a little speech at the dinner. He was delayed, so the priest decided to say his own few words while they waited. "I got my first impression of the parish from the first confession I heard here. I thought I had been assigned to a terrible place. The very first person who entered my confessional told me he had stolen a television set, and when questioned by the police, was able to lie his way out of it. He had stolen money from his parents, embezzled from his employer, had an affair with his boss's wife, taken illegal drugs, and given VD to his sister. I was appalled. But as the days went on, I knew that my people were not all like that, and I had indeed come to a fine parish full of good and loving people." Just as the priest finished his talk, the politician arrived, full of apologies for being late. He immediately began to make the presentation and gave his talk. "I'll never forget the first day our parish priest arrived," said the politician. "In fact, I had the honor of being the first one to go to him in confession." A married couple wakes up one morning and, while still lying in bed, the wife turns to her husband and says, "Maybe you shouldn't go to work today." The husband, confused, replies, "What do you mean? Why shouldn't I go to work today?" The wife explains, "I think you've been working too hard. Instead of going to the office, maybe you should take a few days off, pack a suitcase, and go stay with a friend for a little getaway." The husband thinks for a moment and decides to take her up on the suggestion. Within minutes, he's up, dressed, and starting to pack his suitcase. "Just out of curiosity," the husband asks while packing, "how did you come to the conclusion that I've been working so hard that I need a break?" The wife looks at him and says, "You were dreaming about your work all night, too." The husband, surprised, asks, "Really? How do you know I was dreaming about work?" The wife smirks and replies, "Because every 2 minutes you were shouting your secretary's name." There was once a Viking warrior so fierce and powerful that no one dared to challenge him in battle. Seeking a new test of his abilities, he took up a different kind of conquest, staring contests. Sailing across Europe, he challenged anyone brave enough to face him, boasting that he had never lost. To make things more interesting, he even promised to give up all the gold he had pillaged to anyone who could defeat him. Word of his challenge spread far and wide, eventually reaching an Irish couple with a very unusual daughter. She'd been born without eyelids. Believing she was destined to win, her parents sent a messenger inviting the Viking to Ireland for a showdown. The Viking, eager to prove himself, accepted the challenge and set sail the very next day. When he arrived, the contest began. Hours passed, then days. Nearly a week later, the Viking's eyes remained wide open, unblinking. At last, the exhausted girl admitted defeat, forfeiting the match. Her baffled mother turned to her husband. How in the world did he keep his eyes open for so long, even against someone with no eyelids? Her husband sighed and shook his head. I don't know, dear, but you can lead a Norse daughter and you still can't make him blink. An old lady is short of company, so decides to buy a pet from the shop. Sadly, there are lots of dogs and cats that she cannot manage. As she leaves, she hears a voice, My word, don't you look a sight, and that dress suits you to a T. As she looks around, she spots a large green parrot and asks, Was that you? Indeed it was, madam. You look delightful. Well buoyed by the comments, she buys the bird and takes it home. You know, I'm so proud of you, I am going to take you to a restaurant to meet my friends. The parrot replies, Well, that will be wonderful, and I know a lovely bistro you have just got to try. Her friends duly meet her at the restaurant, and as they sit down, the parrot starts swearing like a trooper and bites the lady and the waiter. Embarrassed, the lady grabs the parrot and heads home. On arriving, she goes down to the basement and stuffs the parrot in the freezer, uttering, I'll teach you. You can cool off in here until you learn not to swear and bite people. After 5 minutes, the lady takes the bird out, shivering from the freezer. Have you learned your lesson? Indeed I have, ma'am. This will never happen again. Well, 2 weeks pass and the local vicar comes around. When he arrives, the parrot starts swearing again and bites the vicar. Angry and embarrassed, the lady grabs the parrot and stuffs it in the freezer again, leaving it there for 15 minutes while she apologizes to the vicar and bids him goodbye. After 15 minutes, she goes down and takes the parrot out, which by this time is frozen to the bone. Have you finally learned your lesson? I most definitely have it. It will never happen again. I don't know what that turkey had done. He's frozen to the bone. I don't know what he did, but I am not taking any more chances.